I got the invitation to go on this Armed Lutheran radio show, though. You know this guy? Have you seen this? There's two things that I would like to say that make me feel safe. Number one, the fact that there is a radio show called the Armed Lutheran Podcast somewhere in the world. That makes me feel safe.
Bringing you law, gospel, and guns. This is Armed Lutheran Radio.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Armed Lutheran Radio, a show about guns, hunting, competitive shooting, the natural right of self-defense, and what God's Word says about the issues surrounding gun rights and gun ownership. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, and this is episode number 461. Thank you so much for making Armed Lutheran Radio a part of your week again this week, and thank you to all of you who are returning listeners. Thank you to all of you who are new. Hope you'll stick around and come back for more in future. I want to thank our Reformation Gun Club members, the men and women who put their money where their mouth is and support the show, keep us going. We don't have any advertising. We don't have any sponsors. The good folks at the Reformation Gun Club are the reason that we're able to keep doing this. And if you would like to join them and find out more about the benefits of membership, check out reformationgunclub.com. Look for a link in the show notes for this or any of our previous episodes. What a week, right? Getting to this a little bit late. But as you know, if you've listened before, I have my 72-hour rule. I don't want to really dive into these sorts of things too early. But fortunately, I had a week that was distracting, shall we say. Had lots of stuff going on with work and my daughter's high school volleyball team. Spent all day Saturday at a tournament, and that was a good thing because I was out with my family and touching grass, as they say, and not delving into social media. Although I did give in to the temptation from time to time and quickly turned it back off because I realized what a terrible, terrible idea that is. And how easily triggered I am to just want to go and chew somebody's head off and say something that I will regret. So I tried to stay away from it as much as possible. And yeah, I'm kind of at a loss for how to go about addressing the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So this may be a bit of a ramble, so bear with me. Not that previous episodes haven't been rambles. It's not like this is going to be anything new, but this one may be a little more disjointed than usual. I was really shocked at every time I would take a minute and check social media, check the news. It just amazing how quickly it'll make your blood boil. The staggering level of depravity and evil that is proudly making itself known on social media as a result of Charlie Kirk's death. But it's hardly surprising, really, given the way the country's been going over the last at least 10 years. I did not know Charlie Kirk. I've never met him. I'll be honest, I've never even listened to any of his podcasts. I've never watched any of his speeches. Not that I disagreed with anything that I saw or heard, except I knew that the media portrayal of him was exactly opposite of what he is or was. my exposure was mainly through excerpts and videos of his debates, like at the Oxford Union, or events like the one he held at Utah Valley University, where he ultimately met his end. I was impressed with his ability to communicate his ideas, to share his faith, to debate respectfully, even when those who stepped to the mic to debate him did not afford him that same courtesy, which was most of the time. And to some extent, I'm not shocked by the haters who, I'm not shocked by the haters who took his words out of context and still do it even now, and assign to him the vilest of motives without having spent even a minute listening to him. All they do is call him a bigot, a transphobe, someone who's spreading hate, a fascist, a Nazi. All the same, the standard tropes. The mainstream media, the brainless leftists in academia, our leftist political class, they've all done it, and they're still doing it. And without a shred of decency or introspection, they're all, for the most part, covering their butts by making these same milquetoast speeches about political violence and how it has no place, blah, 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 blah. And then at the same time, they turn around and say, well, but Charlie Kirk's rhetoric essentially means he had it coming. It's not surprising. Or they claim with a straight face that somehow this was Trump's fault because of his rhetoric. And I'm sorry, but, and pardon my French, but that's bullshit. And we all know it. And look, I recognize that political violence and hyperbole are not the sole province of the left. There are right-wing extremists who do it too. But the vast preponderance of cases come from the political left, and many of the movements that foster these violent ideas are mainstream on the left. That would be BLM, the trans movement, radical Islam, and radical Marxists. Although trans and BLM share a lot of the Marxist ideology. But on the right, we have ours too, but they certainly are not mainstream. And they certainly are not celebrated the way the trans and the BLM and the radical Muslim groups are celebrated on the left. And I don't know what we expected or why, if anyone was really shocked that this would happen. They were called these names repeatedly. People like Charlie Kirk were told that they're threats to democracy. And he was a threat because he was effective. He dared to step onto the campuses of, institutions of higher indoctrination and to have civil debates with kids and to challenge their preconceived notions. And he was killed for it. And many on the left celebrated and are still celebrating. Now, notice I said he was killed. I did not say they killed him. I see a lot of people on the right irresponsibly throwing this phrasing around. And this is also bullshit. Who is they? When you start making these claims, they killed him. Who is they? What you're telling us when you make those kinds of statements, when you say they killed him, you're admitting that you believe in some vast left-wing conspiracy or right-wing conspiracy. I've seen similar nuttiness proposed. to off people like Charlie Kirk. But when a mass murderer shoots up a school and the left comes out, as they always do, and says, well, it's all about the guns are to blame, we are quick to point out and to correct them. The gun is not the issue. The shooter is the problem. It's the shooter who committed the murders. It's not the gun. But now Charlie Kirk gets shot and we are generalizing. And I think that's an awful move. Because there is no they. The shooter, a confused leftist with a fetish for furries and a trans boyfriend, had an abiding hatred for the right and for Christians, despite what some people are trying to suggest about this guy. This guy was a crazy person from the left. He is the one who killed Charlie. There is no they. But there are ideologies on the left that motivate people to do the things this guy did and others have done. There's no getting around that. But I want to, before I get into that, I want to address all the freaking keyboard warriors on the right who are spewing all this nonsense conspiracy crap. It's mostly coming from worthless racists and anti-Semites, people like, I'm not going to throw out a name and slander, but I think you probably know who I'm talking about. People who constantly opine about how this or that is part of some grand conspiracy and everything must be questioned. Oh, the old guy in the crowd was just a decoy so the shooter could escape. Oh, this was obviously a professional hit. Then you see the state of that god-awful rifle that the guy left behind, and you realize this guy was as far from professional as you could possibly get. All the endless nonsense about bullet drop and shadowy conspiracies and trained assassins, and maybe it was Israel that did it. Because, the Jews. We have our problems with idiots on the right, and they should be called out. Turns out that this wasn't some shadowy cabal. It wasn't the Jews. It wasn't a professional hit. It was an incel kid who spent most of his life on the internet, in chat rooms and playing games, and choking the chicken in a dark corner of his house in the basement with his trans boyfriend complaining about those evil Christians and those evil Republicans. It's morons that are spouting this other stuff about Jews and Israel and professional hits and all this stuff. The people who are spouting that stuff are just morons. And if you find yourself subtly agreeing with them or questioning what they're throwing out at you, all this conspiracy stuff, maybe here's a suggestion. Turn your phone off, turn off your PC, unsubscribe and unfollow all those retards who are making those claims, and then go out and do something constructive with your life. Seriously. Touch some grass. We've talked on this show a number of times about how this country is so radically divided. And my Christmas special has for years been the reading of this poem that was written after the First World War called "They Saw the Same Star Rising." And the show is meant to be, with my commentary at the end, a hopeful prayer that we might be able to see the common humanity in one another again. You know, after 9/11, there was a short-lived moment of unity in this country. And we've talked on the show, as I said before, we've talked about the divide, and we've talked about, you know, do you think even a 9/11 kind of event would bring us together again? And I really don't see any hope of that now, to be honest. I hate to be a bit of a Debbie Downer, but that's how I see it. The number of people who are openly celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk is sickening. I get it. People didn't like his message. Fine. People didn't agree with his opinions. Fine. But that's no excuse for killing him. It wouldn't matter if he was on the left or on the right or in the center. But the number of individuals, just everyday people, who think it's a good idea to go on social media and spout off about how great it is that a 31-year-old father of two was murdered because you disagree with him is shocking to me. The number of elected officials and establishment media talking heads who continue even to this day. I mean, they haven't taken a break from this at all, to continue to claim that Charlie was spreading hate, so it's not surprising that he got killed. What's not surprising is that this is happening. That people on the left are revealing their true selves, showing you their face. It's not surprising to me because, as we all know, if you challenge the left's established policies and ideologies, their idiotic arguments, you're going to be labeled as a hater and a bigot and a Nazi, and someone on the left is probably going to try to kill you. And this stems from something that I talked about on the show before. The fact that we've lost a shared system of values in this country. We don't have a shared moral framework. We've set that aside in exchange for this idea that you can be a good person without God, without religion. And the truth is, you can't. Because we're all fallen. We're all sinful. And without a moral framework of right and wrong, a framework that is greater than government, greater than our legal system, greater than your own selfish wants and needs and desires, well, without that framework, you get this. People justifying and celebrating the murder of someone with whom they don't agree. Simply because they've been told he's a bad person. They don't even need to bother to listen to him. They just know that that person's bad because they've been told he's bad. Because without that moral framework, killing a Nazi is a good thing. Stopping someone who is a threat, a so-called threat to democracy, is a good thing. And that's why the most vile thing I've seen, if you haven't seen it, this may come as a shock, There are lunatics on the left even calling for Erica Kirk, Charlie's wife, to be next, so that the kids can be taken away, put into foster care, and re-educated. You heard that right. That's an actual thing. When we say the Pledge of Allegiance in this country, to the extent that we still do that, a lot of places don't. And this is probably why. Because we're claiming in that pledge that we are one nation. But the left doesn't see us as one nation. And we definitely are not one nation. We are at least two diametrically opposed nations. One that seeks consensus and debate, the other that seeks to dominate, to silence, and to justify killing those who disagree. We claim in the pledge that we are under God. That is most certainly true, but we're definitely not, all of us, under God. We're definitely headed for God's condemnation, but we're not under God. We don't all see it that way. One of the two nations doesn't even acknowledge his existence. We say, we pledge that we are indivisible, but we're not. We're more divided than ever. And I know that sounds hyperbolic, and it's fashionable to counter that claim by pointing out, well, there's this little thing called the Civil War. But I don't think that in 1861, the majority of people in the South wanted to exterminate the people in the North, or that the people in the North wanted to exterminate the people in the South. Don't think that's how that worked. We claim that we have liberty and justice for all, but do we? I would ask you to maybe reach out to Irina Zarutska and see what she thinks on that matter. Oh yeah, you can't. Because she was murdered by a 14 times repeat criminal who was still out on the streets and who stabbed her in the throat, and she bled out on a metro train in Charlotte, North Carolina. And media and leftist politicians and people like Van Jones or the worthless mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina are making excuses for it. Do the good people who live in our inner cities have liberty and justice when they see savages roaming the streets, victimizing people repeatedly, returning to the streets because of supposed, racial disparities? We got to, restorative justice and all this crap. All that does is endanger the people who live in the streets, in the neighborhoods where these savages live. Do we really have justice in this country? Because if we did, Hillary Clinton and Anthony Fauci, and I dare say members of the January 6th committee, would probably be in prison right now. We're not one nation. And the sooner we recognize that, the better. Those of you, though, who are gung-ho to take up arms and are calling for civil war to fight back, please stop. Just stop. Especially those of you who are veterans. Because and especially those of you who have been overseas in combat zones, you know what it looks like. And you really don't want that here. If you know anything about history, you should not desire that at all. In a recent survey of over 300,000 college students, 34%, this I found this out and it shocked me. More than a third said that violence is acceptable to stop someone from speaking whom they disagree with. 1/3. This is the ideology we're up against. The man who allegedly killed Charlie Kirk was raised in a conservative home from everything we can tell. His father, I can't imagine how this must feel, but he's a 25 plus years in law enforcement. But he allowed his kid to spend all of his time in his room or in his basement online, and a year at college, and then he ends up a pro-trans warrior and a murderer. As our good friend and former contributor Aaron Israel said recently, once this insidious ideology gets its hooks into your kids, they're done for. Doesn't matter how you brought them up. If you're not careful, they'll undo everything you did in raising them and turn your kids into monsters. So I hate to be the doom and gloom guy. I know this has gotten really dark, but I don't see this getting better anytime soon. I know there are some positives. The vigils that have been held all over the country and the increase in people going to church. And that's all great. That's fantastic. I mean, hopefully this is some sort of a turning point, but I still don't think that it solves the problem that we have very hardcore people devoted to their ideologies who simply will not change and are the real threat to our democracy. John Adams wrote that our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It's wholly inadequate to the government of any other. And we're neither moral nor religious in this country. Not in the sense that Adams meant it. Most of Americans are still, to some extent, religious. But almost a plurality have replaced morality and traditional values and religion with spiritualism and selfish desires and Gnostic nonsense and a devotion to big government. And all we can do is pray that those people don't kill us and that their eyes are opened and that they one day see the truth. And all we can do, well, the other thing we can do is hug our kids, pray, go to church, make sure your kids are not exposed to the evil of the left and the dark corners of the internet. Continue to speak out against evil and injustice, against the perversion of the truth. It's all we can do. We are all Charlie now. Christ called on his disciples to love their enemies. Love our enemies is what we're called to do, and do good to those who persecute us. To overcome evil with good. That's what Charlie would have wanted. That's what he was striving for. That's what Christ calls on all of us to do. Just remember, They hate you because they first hated Christ. All right, those are my thoughts. If you have any thoughts or any comments or any questions, if you'd like to share your reactions to the state of the nation, things that have happened recently, I would encourage you to visit our feedback page, armedlutheran.us/feedback. Leave us a message, send us a voicemail, comment on Facebook, join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio, comment on our YouTube channel. We would love to hear from you. And share your comments and respond to your comments in a future episode. That will do it for me today. I've got some submissions from folks coming, and hopefully we will hear from, I know I've got a submission from Pastor Bennett I'm going to be releasing. Next week is going to be, this week, I should say, is going to be even busier than last. Where last week only had 3 days of volleyball. This week we've got, let's see, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 4. Yeah, 4 days of volleyball and work shoehorned in. So, going to be a crazy one. Hopefully, things will slow down here after this week, though, as kind of the regular flow of the season gets going, and all the major projects at work are behind me. So we will be doing a September online hangout, so look for an invitation or information about that in the coming days. Until we meet again, keep shooting, keep praying. We'll talk to you next time.
For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. Check out the Facebook page, The Armed Lutheran, or join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio. If you like what you hear, please leave us a comment on our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback or a review on iTunes and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to Armed Lutheran Radio.